absolutely wild story breaks
Yes.
earlier about Quicksilver being Kraven the Hunter. I find this to be absolutely fascinating. Aron Taylor Johnson is cast officially in a Kraven movie for Sony that already has a release date, already has a director, and he's also signed
Yes.
for multiple projects. I mean, this is a lot almost out of nowhere. What's your just
It was a
initial
very
take?
confusing big announcement. It
Yeah.
felt like a big announcement. They're like, it's coming right now. It's gonna be huge. Multiple project guys, just wait. And it's like, I still feel like they won't even tell us that we're getting multiple Spider-Mans. And now they're like, on top of that, Spider-Man confusion. Here's more Spider-Man confusion. Also, you're getting Venom. Also, you're getting this. And you guys like,
You're not wrong.
guys,
You're not wrong. And that's part of the
what?
reason people have trouble with Sony. They have trouble trusting because it does feel almost like a hodgepodgey thing. And, look, Kevin Feige's name isn't on this. Amy Pascal's name isn't on this. Avi Arad's
Yeah.
name is on this. And people have, sort of trepidation and promise about that or, problems with that. But you're right. It does sort of add to that confusion. The main thing for me is like, are we going to see freaking Spider-Man in this? Because there's no Spider-Man and,
I mean, that's the real
Venom
question, right? When are we going to see Spider-Man, and which Spider-Man are we going to see, and when will they just fucking tell us?
Yep.
For Pete's sake, when will they just tell us which Spider-Man we're seeing? And honestly, at this point, I feel like with all the multiple Spider-Man news that's coming out, I don't even care anymore. Like, just give them all to me. Like, whatever works best,
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I feel like I'd be kind of down if they just abandoned all continuity and just did whatever works best for the project, like whatever makes it the most entertaining product. I'm down for. And if that means like a one-off Sony Spider-Man that happens to be one of the things that they introduce in the multiverse Spider-Man shit, where they bring back both Toby and Andrew, and if they decide to continue on with that and say that like this is happening in another universe and they want to do that, great. They want to put it in the Marvel universe and have him fight Tom Holland, great. I really don't think it's going to be that weird to like suspend our disbelief that Quicksilver is now
Sure.
what's his fuck Kraven.
Yeah.
Because I mean it would be weird with like a big main character perhaps. With this one, it's like fuck it. So it's like if they want to do that, do that. If they want to do this, do that. But I do think Spider-Man needs to be in it. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
like
It's especially because if you think about some of the best Craven stories, they're super integral to Spider-Man. I mean, his whole thing
Yeah.
basically.
he's like obsessed with him.
He's obsessed with him. He wants to fight him. And at one point, I mean, there's the really cool Craven's Last Hunt where he needs to kill him to be able to die. Right, so like it's all this
Yeah.
like weird like
His
prophecy thing.
entire life force.
He's like, and he's sick of
Yeah.
being alive. He like wants to die. It's really wild. So a lot of cool stuff that they can do that with that character, but it all is seemingly attached to Spider-Man. I mean, we assume Spider-Man is going to be going over in the Venomverse, and I think to your point, one of the reasons they might be holding all of that back is because they haven't announced shit about what Spider-Man's going where and how many of them are actually coming back. I agree with you that I'm starting to get to a point, even with Marvel proper and the MCU proper, where some of the restrictions from canon are starting to flip and become not so positive things if we can't get all the fun stuff. I think with things like What If and the multiverse, though, there's the opportunity to do, all kinds of fun, crazy canon things. So I still think that there's a lot of room to play there. But I think that if they're legitimately trying to create a Kraven movie like they did with Venom, absent of Spider-Man, I would just discourage them from doing that. That would be massively ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of talking about that. We're like, I originally thought Venom equals Spider-Man, but here we are.
True.
No Spider-Man, Venom coming again, and you know what? They're doing great. I think it'll be a little harder with Kraven because his shit's a little stranger, a little more obscure, a little funkier of a storyline, which also I think kind of lends itself to our like suspicions. We're like, are they just choosing like more and more weirder characters so they don't necessarily have to go pay people or pay these writers for these storylines? But if they're going to do if they already said they're going to do multiple projects with this guy, I would assume they would do like a long standing story like The Last Hunt that would involve Spider-Man. And I just think that if Sony tries to play like the continuity game, they're going to suffer. Like,
yeah. Unless,
Like, just
unless they have, because a lot of this, we've been talking about this for the past several weeks. There's confusion about what's going on with Sony and Marvel. But make no mistake about it, some kind of big deal is worked out. They just did that sort of pay one deal that's going to run through 2026. And then it's like immediately after that, we start getting all this news. So like, it seems like a lot of the shit was being held back for this particular thing. And I think that one of the reasons might be, what if it's Feige that's going to help at least craft in some ways what they'll be doing. Now, he's not attached to this film at all, but the establishment he might create in this next Spider-Man movie might well give all the routes and avenues that Sony would need to bring their Spider-Man back to do ridiculous things with their Spider, people and different characters. And in that sense, I'd still be more open to it. But frankly, too, I know that Feige wanted to do Kraven, and so he's not doing Kraven, and Sony is moving on Kraven. And so that, again, something for Marvel fans to be like, I don't know, it's just feeling very Sony to me. But let's switch the conversation to this way. I want to ask you this. Yeah, go ahead. What was the point?
I mean, it does kind of seem like, I don't know. I'm happy with like standalone Sony Spider-Man projects. I don't need it all to tie into everything else, and I just really don't see now, like with everything that's come out and all the rumors and stuff, how that would tie into their plans for Spider-Man in the MCU. And so instead of disrupting that, I'd rather just see like a standalone Spider-Man Sony film.
Yeah,
that's totally separate with Kraven.
Yeah, no, I
Two
totally
Spider-Mans at the same time. Fuck it, I don't care.
I mean, the thing is, like, I totally agree with you, but I think just from a business contractual standpoint, like Sony wants that MCU stank, right? So that's what it is. It all comes back to like they want that MCU stank. Well, here's the simple way to do it: is just bring back one of the Spider-Man from your previous franchises. Oh, and he happened to be in a movie with the MCU Spider-Man and MCU villains and whatnot. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the play on it. But I got to ask you, Daryn, I got to shift it in to the boner talk,
what
okay? We got to talk boners. That's right, we're talking boners.
It's the boner that won't quit.
It's the boner that won't quit. The little boner that could, you know what I mean?
The little boner.
The little boner that could.
Yeah.
Look, when it comes, I know, right? You're going to need a minute, I know. So, look, here's my question. I saw people talking about this in the chat. I saw people talking about it in the chat. I'm gonna bring us home on this.
Okay.
If this dude is obviously not coming back to be Quicksilver, and they put Quicksilver in WandaVision, am I reading too far into it? Am I getting my boner hope up once again that this news with Kraven could somehow, in the freaking crazy multiverse freaking evidence thing, mean that the boner is real and that Evan Peters is more than just a freaking troll and that he might come back as either actual Quicksilver or Mephisto? What do you think?
Yes, I think that the Aron Taylor Johnson news means that he is 100% for sure done being Quicksilver. Because if Sony and Marvel are already talking about doing projects together, it's like he's moved on, he's doing a new role, whatever, good for him. And if there's going to be any Quicksilver stuff in the future, it's going to be your dear old boner. So I guess you can get that boner up to like a quarter chub, because that might be possible. It might be a hard impossibility. But
so it's, you heard it here, folks.
But
we're going back to Bonerville, USA. I believe in the boner still. I don't think Feige would shaft us like that. And I choose to believe.
How many can we do?
I know, right? How many? Can somebody get a boner pun and / joke count on this? Because it's got to be through the roof. So, do you have any last minute juicy thoughts on the sort of initial take and possibility of this happening? And one last thing I want to add to this. Apparently, this is a huge role for Sony, a super big deal. They approached huge names for this, apparently, including Adam Driver. Keanu Reeves was approached for this. So, for whatever reason, they ended up going with Aaron, and it's a huge get for him, and it just shows that it's going to be a very, very big role for their universe. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, good for him. You know, it looks like he's going to pull an Oscar Isaac and Josh Brolin and just be in literally everything that he possibly can. I love to see it. He's just happy to be here. Whatever way he can kind of like crawl into any kind of superhero, sci-fi, fantasy universe, they'll take it, which is also like what am I even talking about? There's so many people who've done that. How many can we list? Chris Evans,
True.
Michael B. Jordan,
True.
Ben Affleck, Ryan Reynolds, Tom Hardy. They've all done like multiple different projects where they played this like different characters in the same universe. And I think when they just get those down ass bitches, they want to hold on to them, because if they have someone who's really willing to commit, because it's by no means an easy commitment, especially if it's a multi-project thing. They want someone who's going to like live and breathe it. And if he's one of those guys who's going to live and breathe it, they're like, they would rather have him over some, hat chat. And good for him.
True. Good for him.
You stay in that universe. I support you. You're one of us now, bro. You can't leave.
Indeed. You can't leave.
You're in it now.
You've always been here, Mr. Tomlin. And that boner will never leave.